Hi everybody, welcome to Sports for All. I'm your host Eden and I've got a very exciting guest. So do you want to introduce yourself to everybody?
Hi everyone, I'm Dr Isabelle Simm and I am a sport and exercise psychologist.
Oh, amazing. So excited to have you. So my first question is, do you want to tell everybody a bit about your sporting background? Maybe if you did some sports growing up and where that journey's kind of led you so far.
hmm Yeah, so I know that some sport and exercise psychologists are big athletes. I'm probably a wee bit less so. I've got a little bit of a mixed kind of journey in sport myself. When I was really young, I was really into anything super kind of adventurous and exciting, like BMX, mountain biking, rollerblades, all of this stuff. But I kind of fell away from that a little bit. And I think like a lot of teenage girls, I went through a phase where I wasn't really involved in sport. Um, I got back into it in my late teens through running, just casually though, just for fun, for exercise. But that was the first sport I think that I really got into since being younger. And then from there, joined the gym and started getting really into lifting and got really into powerlifting. And that was the first sport where I started taking it quite seriously and it really challenged me. I got really into it. And I absolutely love strength training. I love the challenge of that. And seeing the progress over time and things like that. I absolutely love that. I don't do it so much anymore. I dabble, but not as much. After that as well, I got quite into things like yoga and things that are quite mindful, and that I think gives you a wee bit of a different perspective on movement and well-being and the relationship between the two. And then walking as well, I think is another sort of mindful exercise, and I try to do a lot of that. So these days I'm a bit of a mix, enjoying a little bit of a mix of things like strength and yoga and a wee bit of running. But certainly it hasn't been a straightforward um, journey, maybe not a typical one. But I think that that's probably quite useful being a sport and exercise psychologist to understand some of the different reasons why people might engage in different sports at different times and things like that. I'm also a big a sports fan. I suppose that comes into it as well.
Yeah.
So I absolutely love ice hockey, football as well.
It's a good time of year to be a football fan at the minute.
Yeah, yeah, really exciting. Hi.
Yeah. That's so interesting. I think you're right. I think it's really good to have a diverse kind of perspective of different ways people can engage in sport and like how many different options there are and also how they can kind of link up and you can kind of do bits of everything. I think like yoga and walking and running are quite nice to de-stress and get out of your head as well. But then some people also quite like I don't know, like for me, when I did taekwondo, like that was my de-stressor, but now I'm
Yeah,
much more, let's do more relaxing kind of stuff, you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think it depends on where you're kind of at.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, I got into to weightlifting and well powerlifting and yoga, both kind of during my doctorate, and they really helped me deal with the stress and just deal with all that was going on at that time. We all engage in sports for different reasons at different times, and I've had that myself.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think also it's really good that you can come back and try different sports or come back to ones that you like to that
Mhm,
period of your life and then you're thinking, oh, maybe I'll have a break for a bit, try something else and then come back to it. So
mhm.
yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
really interesting. So do you want to tell everybody a bit about what a sports and exercise psychologist kind of does and yeah, what kind of inspired you? Obviously, you've loved sport for a long, long time. What inspired you to become one?
Yeah. So, I guess for people that don't know, sport and exercise psychology is all about understanding things like our thoughts, feelings, behaviors, um, other things as well. But those things that influence our performance, but also our participation and our well-being in sport and exercise. So it's I think it's broader than a lot of people I think it is. I think a lot of people think that it is maybe just about helping elite athletes perform under pressure, right? That's what we usually see sport and exercise psychology as. And that is a part of it, certainly. But, it's certainly not just elite athletes. It's not even just athletes. It's just that it can be anyone
Yeah.
engaged in movement and exercise. So it's about helping people build confidence, maybe staying motivated, managing nerves or different emotions, coping with setbacks, injury, or even just to simply enjoy sport or enjoy exercise more. All of these kinds of things. It's definitely not just about performance. There's kind of a lot to it. It can be really varied. In my own private practice, I spend a lot of time helping mostly young athletes develop skills and deal with challenges, both in sport and out with that as well, taking that holistic approach.
Yeah.
So sometimes that is helping somebody prepare for a big competition, but sometimes maybe it's just helping them manage their emotions day to day or balancing their sport with their school, things like that. Um, and I think that, what inspired me to pursue it, that was a combination of two things that I was very interested in, sport and psychology. And early on in my psychology journey, I was actually much more research focused.
Mm.
And I do still enjoy that side of psychology, but I did find myself being drawn to the applied side of things and really wanting to apply what I was doing to work with people and to help them directly one to one and directly kind of see that difference in somebody's life. So that's really what drew me to it. I think that sport provides a really interesting environment for psychology, for applied psychology. There's really prominent emotions, pressures, stressors, confidence and motivation, resilience, all of these things are really on display. And it is just such an interesting and varied kind of platform to do psychology in. So yeah, I think it's a good way to combine my interests and to directly help people and have an impact on them and help them to thrive in their setting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That is so, so interesting. And I think you're so right. Like, people don't realize how much varied experiences that you can have with different people. And like, it's not just high performance art, there's so much within that. And I think also within sport as well, there's so many different challenges. And I know we're going to talk about that, but there's so much that goes along with it that people don't even understand until they're speaking to you, and then they're like, actually, yeah, that has been impacting on my performance or life outside of sports. So yeah, I know it's really
Uh,
interesting.
yeah, yeah. You can't always have kind of one side of things without the other.
Yeah,
They overlap intrinsically. So, yeah.
yeah, no, 100%. So what advice would you give to a young person who's interested in sports psychology?
I think for people interested in sport and exercise psychology, my biggest piece of advice would probably be not to worry about having everything figured out. Most people don't, even if it looks like they do.
Mm,
I
really?
suppose that's a good bit of advice for life in general.
Yeah.
But if you're interested in sports psychology specifically, I think it's interesting to stay curious
Yeah.
curious about people, asking questions, and taking on opportunities to be involved in sport in different ways. So for some people that's playing, for some it's coaching, for some it's volunteering, officiating, for some it's just being a fan, or it's helping out with kind of admin things, whatever. But it gives you some insight into that. Um, and beyond that, then to get involved with sports that you might think that's not really your thing and things like that as well. And yeah, not being afraid to try different things. My own journey definitely hasn't been a straight line. I've tried different sports. I've tried working in different sports. I've tried working in different areas of psychology and sport, and took opportunities that I wouldn't have
Yeah.
foreseen myself taking. And yet some of those have been my absolute favourites and the best experiences I've had. Um, and and there's been loads like that. Loads of my favourite experiences that I've had along the way have been maybe ones that I was a bit like, oh, I don't know about that. That doesn't seem like it would be something I would like. And actually then it really was.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think when you kind of take that step and then you're like, oh, I don't know if this is for me. Like, I'm not sure I want to do this, but I'm gonna just try it anyway, and then it'll work out really. It might be something that you absolutely love and want to do for the rest of your life, or it might not be, but at least you've tried it.
Either way, you're going to have something to take away from it. You're
Yeah,
going to have reflections and lessons learned, and you're going to figure out more about what you do and don't like. And oftentimes you'll be surprised, or even if you don't like it, then you would have learned so much about yourself and developed really good skills along the way. So I think it's important to sort of try those experiences and maybe like try something that maybe makes you puts you out of your comfort zone a little bit. Uh, and yeah, it can be quite empowering. And
100%. So what are the skills do you think have been the most important throughout your journey being involved in sport at a young age and also now, and how have they helped you in other aspects of your life?
so I mentioned curiosity before, and I think that one of the most important skills for my journey has been maybe that curiosity. Maybe not, quite explicitly a skill, but it's linked to, I think, a lot of skills in the sense of wanting to gain knowledge, to learn facts and be curious about how things work and why things are the way they are, but also being genuinely curious and interested in people
Yeah.
and wanting to genuinely find out about them as a person. I think that's really important for a sport and exercise psychologist, to be genuinely interested in the people that we work with as people, as individuals. As a sport and exercise psychologist or a psychologist in general, it is a massive part of the job to understand someone else's perspective, and that might be hugely different from your own, right? So being able to sort of develop that empathy with
Yeah.
people. I just think that has been really incredibly important in my work, and in life more generally as well. Perseverance has also been really important. So I can talk about my sport journey being a little bit up and down, and it's the same with training and career paths. Nothing is ever totally straightforward. For anyone, there's always challenges, but learning to keep going, keep learning, trusting the process. It's things that we, as sport and exercise psychologists, work with athletes or exercisers on all the time. So it's a little bit of practicing what we preach
Yeah.
there. But it's super important. So yeah, taking on board things that I tell others about being resilient and things like that is has been really important um, for me. I, Another one, being comfortable with a little bit of uncertainty is valuable. When I was younger, I didn't have this clear plan of exactly how I was going to become a sport and exercise psychologist and what that would necessarily look like. But lots of opportunities opened up, and they weren't always necessarily opportunities that I pictured myself in, but I
Yeah.
took them anyway. And, you know, I said before, it was those kind of opportunities that are then I quite often have enjoyed the most or gotten the most from. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was such a good answer. Thank you so much. There's so much in that. Yeah, you're so right about uncertainty and feeling okay with being a bit out of your comfort zone is something that is really hard. And also taking your own advice. Not easy sometimes, but definitely really important. And also what you were saying about the whole picture and being the athlete, all the different aspects of their life and how they all kind of interlink think that's
Mm.
really important to be aware of. So my next question is, what do you think are the main barriers for people wanting to get involved in sport or also a career in sport? And maybe do you have any tips how they can overcome those barriers?
I think one of the barriers might be this misconception that sports psychology is only for elite athletes,
Yeah.
or that it's only for people that are struggling. Yeah, I think a lot of people imagine sitting down with someone and talking about things when something's gone wrong, and absolutely that happens a lot. But it's a lot more than that, and it's a lot more kind of proactive than that. It's a lot more varied than that. There's more that we can get involved with and more that we can do. And a lot of that's more accessible than kind of diving straight in and working in elite sport. My kind of dream of doing that, and usually I would say sport and exercise psychologists will get a chance to do some of that. It's pretty common to have opportunities to do that. However, there's lots of really interesting stuff that we do that isn't that.
Yeah.
And that is maybe more accessible and actually where we can make a difference to more people. Um, yeah,
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you don't really realize how much of an impact you can have. And even maybe if you are working with a high performance athlete, there's also more going on that they probably don't even realize. And then when you've spoken to them about different ways they can help themselves and other aspects of their life, they're like, oh yeah, actually, maybe it's not just all about this one thing. Maybe there's more going on here.
yeah. And I think like for wanting to get involved in sport as well, a similar thing would apply. So we can be working on our skills, our positive kind of skills psychological skills that are going to help cope with setbacks and challenges and all this. But when they come, we can be doing that without competing,
Yeah.
or you don't need to be at a high level of sport to be working on your psychological skills and working on things like your confidence, your focus, managing pressure, all of these kinds of things, we can all be working on regardless of what kind of we're doing in sport or exercise. Um, Sport psychology and sport, it's not just for Olympians or professional football players. It's relevant for anyone really that wants to get the most out of themselves and wants to lead a healthy, fulfilling life, in sport and beyond as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's so important. And I think, yeah, you're so right. You can transfer those skills to other kind of aspects of your life. My last question, I can't believe we're on the last question. What advice would you give to a young person who wants to get involved in sport or sports psychology, but who doesn't have the confidence to take their first step? You've already given some amazing pieces of advice, but maybe around that confidence piece, what would you say?
I think that we don't need to be confident before we start.
Yeah.
Sometimes we think that confidence should come first
Yeah.
and then we take action. But in reality, it's often the other way around.
Yeah.
Confidence tends to come from trying things and gaining experience and realizing actually that we can cope with it. Sometimes it's a little bit about feeling a little bit uncomfortable and then the confidence can come from there. So that might be, joining a sports club, trying something new, putting yourself out there for some kind of opportunities. It's totally normal in all those situations to feel a bit nervous or unsure. And most people are going to feel that way when they try something new. But, you know, we can't wait until we feel 100% ready
Yeah.
because that moment's never going to come.
No. Yeah, no,
Um,
100%.
yeah. So focusing on those, taking that small step, just doing it, just taking a small step, whatever you feel like you can manage, and proving to yourself then that you did take that small step and you could deal with it and you can take another one. So that might just be attending one session, sending one email, having one conversation, whatever that is, and then being proud of yourself for taking that one step and building from there. you certainly don't need to be confident to do that. You just sometimes need to show yourself that you can, even when you don't feel confident. Um, and you know, you're not going to know exactly where that'll lead. You're not going to know exactly what will come from that. It's going to be uncertain. But sometimes they're the opportunities that end up shaping our experiences, or we get a really nice experience from something that actually took a bit of courage to take that step towards it.
Yeah, no, 100%. That is such an amazing piece of advice. I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to maybe be the best or have the confidence to do things, and it takes a bit of time. So I think starting small and then building up
Mhm.
is really, really important, and you will get there. And even like when you're in the sport, it'll come over time. The more you get involved, the better and easier things like this will become. Thank you so much. I've had such a lovely time chatting to you, and there's been so much that people can take away from that. So thank you so much.
You're welcome, Eden. Thanks for having me. It's been nice to have to chat kind of through these things and to reflect on my career and sport and future sport and exercise psychologists, maybe, or kind of other people that are generally interested in sport and in sport and exercise psychology. Um, yeah, thank you.
No, amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast. If you want to connect with me further, you can find me on LinkedIn at Eden Byrne, and be sure to check out all the other amazing podcasts on Be the Change Media Network.